Sticking with that quarter, Heather Mushnick is the former head of content partnerships at Hulu. Joins us this morning along with Ben Smith, media columnist for the New York Times. Guys, happy Friday. It's great to see you both. Thanks for the help today.
Good morning. Thanks for having us on.
Heather, let me begin with you. When you think about Disney at this point, we're just talking about the optionality on say, Black Widow, for example. In your mind, does it remain a streaming story or is it a reopening story?
I think that it remains a streaming story. I think we're going to see, we still don't know how quickly Black Widow is going to fast follow for a purchase and for inclusion on Disney Plus, and the numbers are going to drive that. But I think that, and that decision hasn't been made, but I do think that it will be a fast follow. We're already seeing a strong, a strong support with Raya and the Last Dragon being same day available on Disney Plus for purchase. So, I mean, Black Widow is obviously going to be their biggest hit of the year, so they're not taking any big risks with that. But I still think this is Disney's year of and it's going to continue to be Disney's story around being a streaming first company, and we'll see that support with how quickly Black Widow comes out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, Ben, I'm curious to know how you view the competitive landscape right now. Obviously, they're way ahead of schedule on their Disney Plus sub target. They've done it in a fraction of the time that it took Netflix to get to these levels. And they've got, as Needham argues this morning, world-class storytellers, despite having half the value of Netflix. I mean, how worried should Netflix be?
I mean, I do think you're sort of seeing this split between the companies that, with the acceleration of the pandemic, kind of made it over this line. And that really, Netflix obviously had this huge lead. Disney got there just in time and then just had this, the pandemic gave them this incredible year for streaming. And then I think there's, you have Warner Media and NBC who launched in kind of confusing ways in the middle of the pandemic. And it seemed, and are just aren't in the same, just aren't in the same league at this point.
I wonder, Heather, whether part of the message here is that this isn't about a la carte anymore. It's really more about who gets to control the bundle. Because even though you can get some of these services still, yes, one-off, you see them forming bundles. You see some of those initial kind of digital forms of cable that were more lower-cost offerings, either falling up or hiking up their prices. Is this really more about control and offering better bundled offerings? We see Apple doing that, too. And should we expect to see more of that in 21 and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a world that is unbundling, with all of the media companies launching their own services. And I think that over time, over the next few years, you'll start to see some consolidation as services either, succeed or fail of their own accord. And then Disney is poised to actually win this fight across the media companies, and I think you will start to see some rebundling, but it's going to take a while. This is still very early days for the direct-to-consumer streaming world, and I think that we are going to head into rebundling, but right now it's about the winner of this current battle, and then over time, winner will take all.
And Ben, that rebundling includes different types of content, too. I'm thinking about what Apple is doing with Fitness Plus. You can imagine Peloton getting into this game as well once they get their supply issues worked out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben?
Yeah. I mean, I think, there is this world where everyone is a media company. I mean, everyone from Spotify to the New York Times are looking to bundle or to be part of those bundles as well.
Ben, we got to turn to paying for content. This Microsoft move supporting this Australian law that would have Google and Facebook pay publishers, and then saying that they would support a similar move back home. How significant is it? And I just wonder, News Corp, for example, at an all-time high, also upgraded at Morgan Stanley. Do you think we're starting to see that reflected in sentiment around some of these names?
Yeah, I do think that the long struggle between the tech companies and particularly the news media is starting to play out in certain ways. Australia, News Corp's base, is acting really aggressively to essentially force tech companies to compensate publishers for, the news you see in a Google search or on your Facebook feed, and doesn't really have any of the kind of sense of humor about antitrust that we have in the U.S. And what was so interesting is to see Microsoft, which is not exactly the equal, where Bing is not exactly caught up with Google on search, essentially dive in on the side of the publishers. And I think what you're seeing has gone from being like sort of a hazy regulatory mess to being a really classic fight between big companies, a tug of war, a lobbying fight in Australia and Europe in particular. And I suspect that whatever resolution you get there will, as Microsoft suggests, be imported to the U.S.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.